We're now done with the second phase of our Adventure Valley project, and yes, it's time to move on to the next phases, but there's a change of plan. So instead of working in the parkour course, well, we are going to deal with supposedly the last phase for this project, which is actually the Ferris wheel. But anyhow, so welcome back well, to the iCraft server, and of course it's me, mikeyperion, and we're back here in the medieval town. So let's first do a recap. So last episode we have finally accomplished working on this medieval town, which is actually the second phase for this project, and I already have started working on the interiors, which is, well, so far, well, I think it does look good, but of course I'm still gonna work on this some other time. Well, I just did it because, well, I have to admit that I don't know. I mean, I think I don't want to include it in our episodes because I'm not really good in working on the interior. So basically, but somehow, well, let's just try to improve things bit by bit, right? But anyhow, so this area right over here is going to be the parkour course. Well, basically the station for the parkour course. Of course, this is going to be the entrance, and on its other side right over here is going to be the exit. So basically the parkour course well, basically we'll go around this section, so we're just gonna check out that later again. So yeah. So basically on this section, well, I already have added another, market stall right over here. And well, I also have started creating a banner. So this is going to be our initial banner for, this Adventure Valley theme park. So basically, well, this is sort of like valleys and a sun, and as well as some trees, beneath it, right? But anyhow, so well, so far so good, and I actually start to loving this place because, well, since it's already finished, well, the struggle is, it's already done, right? And also during the last episode, we also have worked on our very first mini game ever in our lifetime that we have done in Minecraft. So basically, this is our very first mini game. So basically, this is a minecart shooter, which is actually, well, basically the mechanics is just, shoot as many minecarts as you can. So basically using bows and arrows. So let's try that, and hopefully yeah, sometimes it doesn't really dismantle even. Yeah, I think I got that one though. Yeah, so basically we already got one. So basically this this game will last up to like 56 seconds, something like that. So basically it's just a one stack in the hopper clock, one stack of item in the in the hopper clock. So basically that's the time frame for this game. But anyhow, so basically that's what we have accomplished during the last episode. So for this episode, we are actually going to work on this section right over here, and probably this section right over here, which is actually one of the valleys that we have here. So basically this is one valley, and then another valley is going to be in the parkour course, but this one is of course just for cosmetics, right? So basically we are going to work particularly on this platform right over here. So this is going to be the place where we are going to have the Ferris wheel. So basically the Ferris wheel is just going to be purely cosmetical, and this place is not well lit. I should probably take a sleep though. But anyhow, so well, just to wrap up this intro, so just to review on what we have accomplished so far for this project. So basically, yeah. So we already have done this, medieval town section. So this is going to be the castle, which is going to be the loading station for our roller coaster. So basically the roller coaster will actually go around this section right over here, and including the parkour course. So basically these dug out sections is going to be the parkour course, and well, first segment is going to be a valley, and this section right over here, which is going to be the second segment, is going to be a cave, and this one is going to be the dragon's lair, which is going to be a volcano. And this is the part where the the roller coaster and as well as the parkour course will intertwine. So basically that's actually the main reason why I wanted to do first the Ferris wheel, because the Ferris wheel is kind of easy to build. That will give me time to do a time lapse for the next episode, because I think, well, is the best if we're going to start working, particularly for the roller coaster for the next episode in the form of a time lapse. And probably that will take me, probably 2 weeks to finish or to accomplish this, particular part of the project. But anyhow, so well, that's actually the main reason why we are going to start first. Working on the Ferris wheel, so at least I can catch up with the, with our schedule of our episodes, which is going to be every Friday, 6 p.m. CST time, and well, for the Philippine time, it's going to be 6 a.m. in the morning of Saturday. But anyhow, so of course, well, let me first, I don't know. Probably we can already start the time lapse because I'm also planning to build the the Ferris wheel in the form of a time lapse. But anyhow, so yeah, let's start this time lapse and let's start building the Ferris wheel. And well, we're generally done with the Ferris wheel, and I have to say that this type of building project is where I'm most comfortable working with because it's very geometrical and very structural because somehow I know where to place the blocks, something like that. But just to explain things, so basically we have used mostly terracottas, prismarines, and andesites. Particularly, we have used red, yellow, and orange and sea green colors in our color palette. For the reason that is because we wanted to match the color of Luukz's boat race tent right over here. So in general, we wanted to have a nice transition between this Ferris wheel and Luukz's boat race. So technically, well, the next thing that we have to work on is this particular section right over here and probably up to this point because, well, we wanted to hand over a proper transition between this area, but we are only going to work up to this point because I want to give Luukz a space for him to take care of, to have his own transition, particularly in this area right over here, which he can actually work by himself, right? But anyway, so, well, before we proceed, I wanted to gather some more dirt, should I say? Because surprisingly, after we have accumulated like 30 double chests of dirt blocks in all of our terraforming project, well, it's already running low. Well, surprisingly, right? But I don't know. Well, I feel uncomfortable having low on resources, and since I'm also planning to expand the business district project in the future, just for the sake that, being efficient, I wanted to start terraforming or flattening this particular area right over here, which is, well, it's going to be a little expansion for our business district, but yeah, at least we're gonna be a little more efficient, right? But anyway, so, well, I'm just gonna do this very quickly off cam, and of course, well, I'll be back. And well, at least that's done. Well, basically, it took us around 10 hours for us to do this, but basically, at least we already have, well, gathered what we needed. So, well, we have actually collected, well, around almost 6 double chests of these dirt blocks, and the rest are like, well, basically stones and some of those andesites, and practically, well, probably we're gonna need some of those. And basically the next thing that we have to do is basically to repair our tools because, yeah, we have to repair a lot of tools. It's needed to be done, right? But anyhow, so, well, the next thing that we have to also do, well, probably, I think I'm also not gonna show that. So what we're trying to achieve right now is actually just to prep up for our next episode, which is going to be the time lapse for our roller coaster project. So technically, well, we still need a couple more wood, but basically I think we just need spruce wood because, well, I don't really have that much spruce wood as of the moment. So now, well, jungle wood, I think we still got plenty of that, and dark oak probably, yeah, probably we're also gonna farm a couple more dark oak. And what else though? I think we still need some leaves for the foliages and trees and stuff. So yeah, but anyhow, so well, that hurts though. But anyhow, so of course, I just need to repair my tools, and of course, well, after that, we are going to work again back in the Ferris wheel. Of course, we also need to finish at least the, the details. Well, the reason behind that is, well, it will serve as a working template specifically for the cliffs that we are going to build around the roller coaster. So, well, I also wanted to do that because at least I will know what are the materials that we are going to do. We are going to use basically. So what I'm thinking is that probably, of course, we're gonna use a lot of stones and probably some andesites to add some textures, and probably some little bit of, cobblestones, and I'm not sure if, well, we can actually use some of those cyan terracottas, but we're just gonna see about that. So, but anyhow, so, well, let me just do a couple of stuff. And yesterday, Luke and I already have agreed on the design of the pathway that we are going to have on the rest of the minigame district. Basically, well, we have to come up with something simple and something adaptive to, other people's build, because basically, of course, this minigame district is actually open for all iCrafters to build or to make their own projects. So technically, well, we have came up with this design. So, but this one is kind of complicated because, well, somehow I wanted to have some sort of like a simulation of like a small creek or a river on this section right over here, since we are going to have like a valley on this section. And basically, this is going to be the, the standard design that we are going to have for the rest of the minigame district. And practically, of course, like I said, we're just trying to make a proper transition from our medieval town going to the rest of the place here in this minigame district, right? And also, well, I already have come up with the design for the cliff, so probably you may already see, or you may already observe that I think, well, probably this is a nicer, and a more organized design, should I say, for the cliffs, for terraforming the cliffs. So technically, I already have removed the old design that we used to have here, which is, well, technically I don't really like it because it does really look ragged. But this one, I actually put a bit of a science, or I should say mathematics, specifically statistics. What you can probably observe that is we're actually using somehow a normal distribution curve, something like that. Yeah, I know it's a kind of highfalutin term, right? But technically what it does is basically it counts the pattern of like having 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Basically just to come up with a normal curve which is shaped like, a bell curve, right? So technically we are also using that same principle for this one. So what we're actually trying to achieve here, as you may probably, can see on the bottom sections, we're actually using 1 block gap for each slope, something like that. And as it goes to the middle, we're actually using 2 block gap. And on the top part, it also goes back to 1 block gaps, something like that, or 1 block slope. Technically, we're also trying to have some variance in terms of the blocks that we're actually using, just to add a little bit more texture. Well, I actually have grabbed a bit of this wool from the Walmart. So basically, well, just to add a bit more color, because what we're trying to achieve here is something like, since this is actually some sort of like a river, this blue, concrete powder, and blue, the concrete on the sides. So technically I want to have a nicer, gradient shade. So basically the bottom part is going to be a little darker. So just to have that darker tone on the lower part and somehow lighter tone on the upper part. So practically that's what we are going to use in terms of like texturing the cliffs, right? So basically, of course, this is just a sample, and well, probably about the normal distribution, it's kind of not that evident for this one because this slope right over here is pretty small, should I say. But once we have actually implemented it, especially if we're going to build the volcano right over here, which is that technique will be more evident once we have started working on this section right over here. But anyhow, so I think, well, that's it for this episode, but I still need to wrap up things before we actually start the time lapse for the next episode. So basically, on this part is going to be the valley, and that part is going to be a cave. So technically, this part is going to be covered, right? So, well, what I thought of is that, well, we also need to at least start working on the foundation on this section, because the roller coaster will actually pass by this area, and since we are going to need a foundation for that, well, practically, well, we already need to cover this up. So probably I'm gonna do that off cam. So once we started building the actual roller coaster, it will be much easier for us to at least somehow it will offload some of those stuff, right? And also probably I'm also gonna do the sides off cam, because technically the jungle trees are not really leaning towards to our team, because, well, we are actually having medieval theme, and somehow we have started using some pine trees, some of these this type of trees. Basically, we are also going to have that on this section right over here. So somehow I'm also going to start cutting down the trees in this area and probably smoothing out the terrain, because some of them are still still not pleasant, right? But anyhow, of course, I'm just gonna do that off cam. And last thing that I wanted to show you before we wrap up this episode, I know this episode is kind of short, should I say, but, well, like I said, it's all about preparation for the next episode. Well, I have to say, I'm actually afraid to start that project, because I know how difficult it's going to be for me to record at the same time, and as well as building this particular roller coaster. But anyhow, well, I'm just gonna deal with that. So last thing, well, I also have made this room right over here as our temporary storage area. So generally, this is actually where we store, well, most of our stuff that we are going to need for for the roller coaster. So we got here some jungle wood. So basically what I'm planning to use for the support for the roller coasters are going to be a lot of jungle logs, and as well as some jungle fences. Since it's going to be like a wooden roller coaster, we are going to use woods, right? And majority of it is going to be jungle logs, and as well as probably from the platforms, and as well as the the tracks. So basically the tracks will actually sit on probably some dark oaks and some spruce planks. So basically we already have probably a sufficient supply of these wood types right over here, which I've actually gathered before this scene. And also, well, I also have gathered a lot of leaves that we are actually going to use for foliages and trees, and as well as some terracottas. Probably we're also gonna need a few of them just for texturing the cliffs and stuff, and as well as andesites. Well, diorites, we're just gonna convert that to andesites, because we are also going to need a lot of them. And of course, the dirt blocks that we have actually gathered before this, right? But anyhow, so, well, the last thing that we have to do for this episode is, of course, like I said, we still need to finish off the surrounding areas of the Ferris wheel. Well, just to at least conclude this this project, this Ferris wheel right over here. So basically the last thing that I needed to do is to actually terraform this area right over here, and probably we can also build some sort of queue for the Ferris wheel, something like that what we have in most of the carnivals, right? So basically, well, of course, we are just going to leave that be in the form of a time lapse, and of course I really have to wrap up this episode. But anyhow, so, well, thank you for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment, please leave a like, and make sure to subscribe, of course, to me, to mikeyperion. And, well, I'll see you guys again next time.